is not moral. It's never been moral. It is an economic issue, a power issue. That's what it's always been. And racism started out and never existed, except it was a relationship, a fighting relationship of power and wealth between white men and black men. That's what it's always been. Racism never existed as a concept until it started. You never had there was no such thing as racism until the 1600s, until white people started enslaving black folk for economic purposes. That's when racism started. No such thing as racism. You never had the concept. You couldn't even be a slave on earth because of racism. You could only be a slave by three things. You could be a slave because of personal indebtedness to somebody, that you didn't pay them the money you owed them. You could be a slave because you were a victim of religious persecution, or you could be a slave because you were a prisoner of war. That was it. Until capitalism started. When capitalism says, I can take an individual, I can take a man, and I can profit off of his labor and pay him nothing, as long as I control the resources. Capitalism means where one person controls the resources, the wealth, the power, and the tools, and uses another man's labor to make money off of it. Capitalism never existed on earth either. You never had capitalism or racism. So they started enslaving people. The white man went straight after the black male, contrary to what you hear from black women. It never had anything to do with black women. Racism had nothing to do with black women. That's why up until the Revolutionary War, we had been enslaved in America for over 150 years, but it never had anything to do with black women. Don't let people get you talk to this women's stuff about we got a women's issue. It wasn't no women's issue. Over 70% of all the slaves brought into America were black men. White men wanted the biggest, burliest, strongest thing he could get so he can work him to death before he's 40 years of age. That was what racism was about. So when you understand racism now, when you hear Clinton talking about racism, I want you all to be prepared in your own worlds to say, nobody's going to run racism on me again and not understand what they're talking about.